And welcome back to the 90.3 KEDM Meet the Candidates Forum. We're here in conjunction tonight with KNOE 8 News and the Monroe Chamber, and we welcome you all with us tonight. At this point, I'd like you to meet Jay Curtis. He's the general manager of 90.3 KEDM. We're the public radio station at the University of Louisiana, Monroe.
We're so glad that you're all here. First of all, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the partnership with the Monroe Chamber, with KNOE 8 News. We're so glad to be able to put on events like this that matter to people who live in Northeast Louisiana and call it home, and to people like, because you showed up today, because you're watching or listening today, you want to make Northeast Louisiana a better place to live, work, and raise a family. If this is your first experience with KEDM Public Radio, welcome. We are licensed to the University of Louisiana Monroe. We provide local and national and international news, classical music, the music of the Delta in our nighttime program called The Boot, as well as lots of informational programming. We are here to increase the quality of life in Northeast Louisiana. We're a listener-supported resource. We kick off our spring membership drive in just 8 days, so we start that next Friday. So if you're just listening now, we invite you to listen and to watch and to pay attention some more for the things that are going on, celebrating music that happens right here in Northeast Louisiana or that has roots in Northeast Louisiana with our nighttime music format. That'll be on as soon as we get finished tonight, or listening to award-winning KEDM news and NPR news from around the country and around the world. We thank you for being here tonight. We thank you for having interest enough to be here and to watch and to listen, and we hope that you will continue to experience more of what KEDM has to bring to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. For the folks who are listening on the radio, we've got a great turnout here. I'm taking a picture of you guys. There's so many of you, I got to get a picture of all of you. I can't even get you all in there. That's the, there we go. That's going to make a great picture. All right, we'll get back to the questions, and again, 1 minute answers. And the first question in this round goes to you, Miss Betty Ward Cooper. How do you keep the young folks from leaving Monroe?
I am in the race. That's one of the main reasons I'm in the race. And it's about our children and young adults. You know, so many of them have a lot of them are doing well, but many of them have lost their way. And I think city government can do more. And that's why, you know, on our platform, these youth development programs that are all year long, mentoring programs, and how we're going to, you know, put money there. So to make this city attractive, so all of our citizens can be proud. A safe city is what we're going to be creating, and then bring economic development, and offer these businesses will offer our citizens jobs and benefits, and each individual will be able to take care of themselves, take care of their families, give back to the community.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. We appreciate your being here tonight. By the way, I try to not show any favoritism to anybody, and I don't mean it as a slight against anybody, but I'll call him Mr. Ellis tonight, and I'll call him Mr. Mayo and Mrs. Cooper. So just in case you're wondering about that. I want to ask a question to you, Mr. Ellis. How do you keep young folk from leaving Monroe?
Well, it starts with a direct feedback loop. Just take a look at my staff. How are we supposed to build a city that includes young professionals if they're not at the table helping you make decisions? I think we've effectively lowered the average age of an executive staff by over 20 years for the state of Louisiana, and they're all ULM and tech grads as well. It's important that we keep them home because that's who we're doing this for. We all here are doing this to save the next generation, to keep them here within our city. I think I can speak for all of us when we say that. But ultimately, it's a direct feedback loop. And the encouraging things that I'm hearing back from our realtor groups is we hear why people are leaving and why people are staying. And we're hearing more people moving back home, more people proud to call Monroe home. And that's when we know the work is being effective, because we're changing the hearts and mouths and the way people talk about our city.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Mr. Mayo, the question will go to you. How do you keep the young folks and that talent from leaving Monroe?
Well, there's no question our young people are looking for opportunities. And regardless of race, creed, or color, they're looking for opportunity. I mentioned earlier that the economic disparity, that gap is so wide. And many of them are leaving because they cannot get the opportunity that they need to get. And they're going to other places. Many of them have been here all their lives, and they want to see something a little different. They're hearing about some of the opportunities in other places, and they're going to those places. But that community gap that we have, COVID has increased it considerably, but more than COVID. My staff was very, very diverse with young folks. And it's not as diverse as it was with my administration. Bless you. But anyway, I lost my thought.
Keeping the young folks in Monroe.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayo. The next question goes to you, Mr. Ellis. And by the way, I didn't mention this either. Nobody has any influence on the questions. I'm the question guy. I did get a couple of topics from folks that were real general about economic development or downtown. But anyway, I've noticed maybe a more visual homeless population in Monroe and more visible panhandling going on in the city. How do you address those issues as a city?
Yeah, so you start working with the wraparound services that are there, with Billy Varner and the Renewal Center, and with our wraparound services and our people that provide those services. But ultimately, we have a challenge when it comes to sober living homes. We have a challenge, the number of sober living homes. We have a challenge because we are the only resource within a 3-hour radius. That means other municipalities bring their homeless here to Monroe for resources. And so it is a growing concern. But ultimately, we face that challenge by working with our friends that are in the wraparound services and the homeless services to help grow and expand those services. And so, you know, it's to build those relationships and to keep moving forward with them to figure out what their needs are. Because they're the content experts, and to be at the table with them and to constantly work with them through my administration has been a blessing.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Mr. Mayo, that question will go to you next. Monroe seems to have a growing homeless population and more visible panhandling. How should the city address that issue?
Well, the Bible says that the poor will be with us always, even to the end of our time. And we have to realize that. And the programs that we have as mayor or as an administration, we need to do things that we can to address that. While we were there as mayor, during my administration, we came up with a benevolent program where we involved our program, our employees, as well as our city council members who went out, spent their own monies, and whether it was the Salvation Army, whether it was other groups that we went out, and that enriched our employees because they felt self-satisfaction being able to do that, and that helped in a huge way. And we'll continue that once we get reelected. We will expand on those type of things.
Thank you, sir. And the question will go to you next, Ms. Betty Ward Cooper. Monroe seems to have a growing homeless population and a lot more visible panhandling. How does the city address that issue?
The city must address that issue. In this United States, in this city, in this state, there should be no homelessness. And we have to make it a priority. We have to make it a priority because we are to be concerned about the least among us. You know, we're a wealthy community in many ways. Yes, we have poverty too, but at the same time, we must, and that's one of the things that I want to strive for. And I've had people to come to me that really want to work with me regarding this, stopping the homelessness, making a change that's needed. And it's an indicator of who we are when we have this percent of homelessness, that visible homelessness you talked about. So we can start right now to change that, and that we can be a model for others.
Thank you, Ms. Betty Ward Cooper. The next question will go to you first, Mr. Mayo. Amazon is a new business that's coming to Monroe, but how would you maintain our current businesses that are here now?
Well, partnership and education was part of my portfolio, also economic development and also growth. These businesses that are here today, we have to make sure that we can grow them because they're just as important when a business being able to grow their businesses, say whether it's 10 jobs, whether it's 15 or 200, whatever the case may be. A lot of times you don't pay enough attention to economic growth. We talk a lot about economic development. And so that's why we did both. We did economic development as well as economic growth. And that is why we were able to grow our economy in the manner in which we were able to. And that's why we were able to go from being broke as a city to over $14 million when we left, in addition to Economic Development Fund. You have to be diverse in terms of addressing your local economy, your local businesses, and working with the Chamber of Commerce and the Monroe Regional Black Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. All right, Ms. Cooper, the question will come to you. Amazon is a new business that's coming to Monroe, but how would you maintain current businesses in Monroe?
The way that we would retain the current businesses would be for us to address their concerns. We'll start there. We listen to them, and we work together to address the concerns of businesses as well as our citizens. See, that's what will keep them voting for us. When they see a person that's been elected and they promised what they were going to do and they did it, you see? And so with these businesses that we bring in, they're our partners for all of this to work, for us to have the quality of life for our citizens. The businesses will know their role, producing jobs with benefits, and we help make them strong.
Thank you. Mr. Ellis, the question will go to you. Amazon is a new business coming to Monroe, but how do you maintain the current businesses we already have?
So you're seeing that every single day. We've worked with multiple businesses to expand, and that starts, again, with a direct feedback loop. I can't tell you the countless number of businesses that we walked in, and they've been established for 40-plus years, to say this is the first time someone from the administration has ever walked in our business. So that is a direct feedback loop. So we've been successful with expansion efforts here within the city. We're working with 3 to 4 other companies right now for multiple expansions, and that's the exact reason why you're seeing year-over-year sales tax increases. It's a sign of a good economy. It's a sign of progress. It's a sign of, and sometimes, you know what, the biggest thing the government can do is get out of the way. The government doesn't produce jobs. People who put their own money on the line produce jobs. And so again, the biggest issue with the government is sometimes just getting out of the way.
Thank you. Question will go to you next, Ms. Betty Ward Cooper. How should the city address building vacancies, buildings that have sat for years and years and years, and blight in the city?
I say clean it up and make use of that property, in a way that it could be a benefit to our community and our citizens, And so we don't want the blight. We must strive to beautify the place where we live. See, I believe in giving back everything with an increase. Even where you live, we make it better for the next generation. Just like these children we have, we give them back with an increase, and do all it takes to develop them in every way. So we want to do the same thing for our communities, develop our communities to make them better. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ellis, the question will go to you. How does the city address building vacancies and blight?
Well, through a couple of measures that we've already passed. First, we worked with Representative Fisher to do a mow-to-own program, which will allow people to mow vacant properties to be able to have ownership of that property. We're working the final details of that now to roll out the pilot project. Second, we had no teeth to our ordinances, so we also passed legislation that allows these derelict property owners, once you get a violation, guess what? It's in the form of a lien on your property taxes, so you can't keep kicking them down the road. But ultimately, we're moving to a rental registry to take note of all property owners who are derelict in keeping their properties up. And there will be some severe consequences to your lack of action. Ultimately, it starts with a clean city. We have cleaned up over 100 tons of debris with a simple litter crew. That people, when they drive through our city, they see a cleaner city. There's so much more work to be done, and we look forward to continuing the work.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayo, sir, that question will go to you. How should the city address building vacancies of long vacant buildings and blight in our area?
Okay, here's the way we did it. You remember the Fight the Blight initiative? We came up with that. We got it from New Orleans, and we think that we did a wonderful job. One example is on 3rd and 4th Street. We work with the Monroe Housing Authority to get that done. We infilled about 23 houses there. It looks so much better there. We tore down 1,000 houses. You go to Robinson Place, we work with the Monroe Housing Authority, and we also built 50 houses down in the Robinson Place area. You look at South Point, there's been 11 neighborhoods that was developed under my administration. Code enforcement is very important too, working with Public Works. Also with the police department, because they're out and they see a lot of this too. So it takes a combination of all of the department working together. That's what we did, and that's what we'll continue to do when we get reelected.
Thank you, sir. I can talk with you all night, and I'm sure these people would stay for a while, but I've only got about an hour with you, so I'm going to move on here with one last question, and then we'll take a break and get to closing statements. The question will go to you, Mr. Ellis. If there was only one thing you could get done in an upcoming term, what would that be?
I would complete the Parks and Recreation Master Plan that you can find on onerow.city. The reason our Parks and Recreation areas are in the shape they are in, it's not because of the last 3.5 years of my administration. They've got that way over amount of time. And I'm very proud of the work that we've put in with community efforts to talk about what their vision of their parks and recreation needs to be. As we call it, the box stop to the puzzle. And so we're already turning dirt on those initiatives like the ADA accessible playground. We're getting ready to cut ribbon on a $200,000+ esports game room at Emily P. Robinson and 2 others on the way, because that's what our children said they wanted to do. We need to start building our rec centers where our children want to go. And that starts, again, back with the feedback loop. So, yeah, I want to finish the Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayo, sir, we'll go to you. If there was only one thing you could get done in an upcoming Mayo administration, what would that be?
Well, the number one priority is reducing crime. Reducing crime, reducing crime, reducing crime. 500% over the national average is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Black on black crime, I'm tired of seeing these young kids and women in caskets, 16, 15-year-olds. That's the number one thing. And we're going to do it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Ms. Cooper, if there's only one thing you could get done in a Betty Ward Cooper administration, what would that be?
I would wave my wand. That's what I do. And to bring about love and unity. Because, see, that's the foundation that we have to build on. No other foundation is going to work. And when we do that, we're going to be inclusive. We're going to be honor diversity. value every person, put our ideas together for the good of the community, even be a model for the other cities. And meet the needs of our citizens. That's why we're here. And so I'll stop there.
All right, thank you. I'm checking the clock. I got time for one more question before we get to statements. So let me ask one more, and it'll go to you, Mr. Mayo. Lumen recently gifted that campus out on 165 to ULM. What kind of ideas or dreams would you have as a mayor of Monroe for that building out on 165?
Well, first of all, let's just say what it is. Lumen left the city of Monroe in Ouachita Parish, and they gifted it to ULM. The same thing happened when State Farm left to the Ouachita Economic Development Corporation, and there were some things done with the amount of funds that came in. But that is a huge building. Quite frankly, I don't see how ULM's going to be able to maintain that entire building. And so there's a lot of work that's got to be done in terms of finding solutions. Now, also, I want to take the rest of my time. Somebody said, how are we going to deal with crime? Go to www.IWantJamieBack, and you'll see a comprehensive plan for improving local education, reducing crime, and economic disparity. You'll see that. That's how we're going to do those things.
Thank you, sir. The question will come to you, Ms. Betty Ward Cooper, next. Lumen recently gifted the building out on 165 to ULM. What kind of ideas or dreams would you have as mayor for that building here in Monroe?
I could see it being another educational type facility. Maybe it could be one that we could use for mentoring programs for at-risk youth. You know, a lot of them, at-risk youth, are in delinquency and crime, and they need rescuing to give them, and we need to give them hope for today and tomorrow, and give them job skills so they can feel good about themselves, feel good about life, hope again. And they'll use their hands to work, and so they can have jobs and take care of themselves and their families and give back to the community. So a facility like that would be wonderful.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Ellis, Lumen recently gifted that 165 campus to ULM. What kind of ideas or dreams do you have for it as a mayor?
Good. Well, let me correct the record, because in 2017 and 18 is when the Level 3 merger happened and the original drawdown of workforce development began. Ultimately, that is the most technologically advanced building in the state of Louisiana. ULM is already starting to field RFPs right now from everybody under the sun. It is capable of housing a DOD facility. So to fill it with just anything is not a strategy. Ultimately, we have to bring in somebody with the contour. If I were Dr. Berry, I don't want to speak for Dr. Berry, I would bring in somebody with a content expert to be able to fill that, a site selector, because ultimately that's a Ferrari, and if you own an expensive car, you better drive it like you can fix it. And so I understand Dr. Berry has big dreams for that, and our community does too, and I can't wait for the day to go drive by and see that parking lot full again, and to see opportunity created, and careers, not jobs, careers for our families here in Monroe.
All right, thank you, sir. Now I've got to get to the closing statement so we get done by 7 o'clock here for our mayor's forum. Let me remind you that we're going to give you 1 minute for a closing statement. I'll give you the opportunity to ask folks for their votes and how they can find out more about you and information about you. We'll begin, we drew randomly before we started for who got the closing statement first, and it will go to you, Mr. Friday Ellis. You have 1 minute for a closing statement, sir.
Again, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and KEDM for hosting this tonight. And again, thank you for showing up tonight. I wish we can get this participation every single time we do something here in Monroe. It has been a complete honor to serve you as mayor. I have enjoyed meeting each and every one of you and working together to grow this city. We face some challenges together, but what I do know is that every time there's a challenge, our people step up and we shine. I'm proud to lead the charge on a lot of key initiatives here in Monroe to build quality of life initiatives, to build infrastructure, to bring quality jobs back to Monroe. And I'm so very proud I did that with your partnership. Because if you're in it for the credit, you're in the wrong job. These are your projects. These aren't ours. These are your hard-earned dollars put to work. And I want to say thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your vote of support. And I look forward to working with you for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. The question will go to you, or the closing statement will go to you, Mr. Mayo. 1 minute for a closing statement, sir.
Well, let me first of all say it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure when we're doing these forums. I want to thank again those that have supported me for so many years. 19 years as mayor, then 6 years as a city council member, then I was appointed to. So you're talking about some 33 years. So many different organizations, schools. I see high school principals here, elementary folks who's here, an organization, and we appreciate that. MCAL has done a great job here, and they need more support, and I'm going to give them more support once we get in office. We raised the minimum wage of our employees, full-time employees, but I received the ASME endorsement because, quite frankly, they said they're not treated the way they need to be treated, many of our employees, and that's just not right, and it's just not fair. We need to do everything that we can to not only treat our community right and work with different organizations, but it starts with our employees and doing every single thing. We gave 9 raises while I was here, across the board raises, not in addition to passing the fire and police tax, and that's why they get that big old 25th check at the end of the year. I think this last time was over $10,000. So we ask for your vote and support, number 25. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Final closing statement tonight will go to Miss Betty Ward Cooper. You have 1 minute.
Well, thank you to the KEDM radio and KNOE TV and the other entities that are here, but also to the Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate you very much. But to you, our citizens, I am happy to be able to live in this great city with you all, and we are having to make a very important decision right now. We have to select an individual that's going to guide our city's path for the next 4 years. It's imperative that we turn from the confines of the past, cast our gaze towards a future with superior leadership. My vision encompasses a city that is not only safe and prosperous, but also dynamic, generating employment opportunities, enriched with benefits, and above all, a city united in pursuit of progress. So I pledge tirelessly to dedicate myself to you, to serve, and persisting until I achieve the collective aspirations that you've spoken about. Vote for me, number 23.
Thank you.
March 23rd.
That's Miss Betty Ward Cooper with us tonight. Again, candidates, thank you. This is tough to put yourself out there. We appreciate you being with us again this year for this forum. I want to remind folks, Election Day is March the 23rd. And if you don't know who's on the ballot, find out more at sos.la.gov.